One, and we are live. Hi, Trish.
Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, Sonora.
She's here.
I
She's sneaking in
know.
case you don't feel too good.
She's such a good sidekick. Her so chill.
She is, unless I'm leaving. Then she's not.
Well, she's your
But she's
girl.
getting better. She's getting better at that.
She's your girl. You're her human. So, Trish and I are here today to actually share our true north stories. So, we're going to start. This is Trish. I always say Lacey, and I've known you for how many years, and I still say Lacey, but it's not Lacey.
No. Well, that's why when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had zero thought of it being a girl. I was convinced the whole time it was going to be a boy. I didn't even pick girls' names, wasn't even entertaining that idea. And on Christmas Day, when they C-sectioned her out and they said it's a girl, I said, blow in her mouth, something will pop out. And my dad had come up with this name, Nikkei, that he met some lady and he liked the name, whatever. So I asked him about it, and it was spelled Nike. And I went, oh no, she can't be Nike Lecky. Everybody says my name wrong one way or another. So that's how it became Nikae, Nikkei, rather than Nike, because I didn't want her to be Nike Lecky. So,
yeah, so I still say Lacey, even though, and so, okay, it's not.
It's all good.
Okay. So Trish is my business partner and my dear friend who I met at my other Airbnb. And between her and I, True North was kind of my thing. And Trish came up with Unicorn Way, and together we've created this beautiful adventure. And so we've started a series called True North. And it's really exemplifying humans that we feel are living their divine mission, their divine purpose. We've done a couple of interviews already, and their stories are life after trauma and after trafficking. Very beautiful women who just exemplify life after trauma in True North. Not all of our interviews will be on that subject. We want to have a very wide range of beautiful humans, and so today we thought we would share our True North stories and kind of how we got here. So, Trish, I'm just going to let you take the floor. You have no problem, expressing yourself.
I thought about this before I came, and I was like, where do I start? Where do I go? What's too much?
Yeah.
I think I will just do a download overview, and you can decide the highlights that you want to ask more about.
Yeah.
That way I can just kind of like dump the timeline in a series of thoughts. Okay. 53 years old, a Leo. I came into the planet in 1966. We've found out, much like you, into an incubator for 10 days. Mm-hmm. Which psychologically and energetically, there's a lot of ramifications of that, of not being bonded, with our mom. Yes. And later in my years at 25, I would find out actually that I wasn't even really wanted, by my father, that in my beliefs will connect to a very strong soul contract, I believe, is that, my dad wanted to be kept out of the Vietnam War. And I would find this out from him when I was about 25, when he was giving me what I felt probably to be the best compliment and being seen by my father ever in my life. And that was when he was telling me he didn't know how I became the mother that I was to my daughter, because I didn't learn it from him and my mother. So he was letting me know that, they didn't necessarily think they parented well, and, kind of giving me the apology for, what he felt was to be, a distant dad. And later I would have helped to find out that follows a belief of mine, and that we have soul contracts, and, and that we're playing out this villain hero story. And I now have great appreciation, for my dad as a soul level, and my mom too. But
they both passed away last year.
They both
one
passed away last
one
year.
right after the other within a very
Yep.
short time of each
Yep.
other.
My dad in March and my mom in June.
Yeah.
So, only child, born in El Paso, Texas, incubator, moved back to Washington. I would find out later by some friends of my parents and stuff doing a little reminiscing around their death, that their view of things was that I was the apple of my mom and dad's eye. We all have our own perceptions. It's like, I remember very few years, or I remember probably up until a certain age that maybe that was that way. I remember knowing that my dad, I've pinpointed where I think he lost his spirit and his purpose in life, which was around music and voice and teaching junior high choir. And I know from that point forward, I watched my dad just kind of wither away. Insecurity, never really hold a job. My mom was the breadwinner for pretty much 40 some years, even working through physical surgery pain and a lot of physical pain. She worked for a place called Tacoma Eye Clinic, which became Cascade Eye and Skin for 40 some years, and was the continual breadwinner, but knew nothing about the money. My dad controlled everything. He was terrible with money, but he was the controller. So she acquiesced and kind of just followed along with everything. My dad and I were definitely the, I now know it to be called trauma bonding. We would butt heads and blow up, and then we would come back and be like, oh, this is how, you know what I mean? And my mom was never really part of it at all. So she was kind of on the sidelines. She was never really part of either side of that. So I'm sure that felt very, disconnected and alienated for her. I watched her be very sad sometimes where she didn't get to be a part of any of that. My mom had a beautiful voice, sang in choir. My dad was the choir director. So I was a little less of the proverbial slut as the preacher's daughter, because I was the choir director's daughter, but still, that holds a lot of pathway. Mm-hmm. My dad was the type of person who thought, abstinence was, the best way of birth control type thing. Very active in his church and expectant of certain things, very dogmatic religion.
What a denomination?
My mom was Lutheran, my dad was Presbyterian, but then eventually at some point we were in a Baptist church, and he was the choir director. And then after that, he did some stuff with Assembly of God. So, and then he was like no church at all from like maybe like high school, 19 years old, maybe for me, like, had his own resentments toward the church and his experiences very much like his, career in music. I think it's that male thing when you have not been seen in your, for your talents, feel like you've been passed over or somebody's done you wrong. So then we have the resentment. So I'm not going to church now. And became a very, very controlling, angry dad from like that point forward. So toward the end, my mom and dad were very, very unhealthy, very unhappy people. It was hard to be around, hard to love them. I definitely have a much deeper affinity for them, on a soul level now, and appreciate them every day.
Isn't it interesting how death does that?
Yeah.
It really does just open up so much. And
it's amazing. I think our humans hold on to so much story, pain body and resentment, that somehow in passing. And I had a wonderful experience with my dad, through his death. So that's pretty powerful. Moved a few, quite a few times when I was younger, when I was in high school. Pretty much my senior year, had 2 required credits, decided I wasn't going to school. The vice principal calls me up and is like, "Are you coming to school?" I'm like, "No, I don't think so." And then, I finished out those 2 credits while I did fashion design for a year. And then I did retail management. And then I ran pretty fast, fast and hard. I was a pretty zealous teenager, young adult. running with the big boys, playing with the proverbial drug dealers, that sort of stuff. At 21, I didn't come home for 3 weeks because my friend and drug dealer had wrecked my car. And the deal was, you wreck it, you buy it. And his way of buying it was me having to walk into the apartment and tell the drug dealers with the guns, "Fuck you, he owes me money. This is coming back." And then for 3 weeks, I get amounts of drugs. So then I had to sell to get my money back for my car. So I'm out there in the world bouncing around, and my girlfriend says, "Get your purple suit. We're going to an interview at the Sheraton. We're going to go work at the Grand Canyon." I was like, the fuck?
What's a purple snoot?
I had a purple suit. I had this
I thought you said a snoot. I'm like, get your purple snoot. Is that some type of drug apparatus I've never heard of?
Totally could be. No, so I got my purple suit, and we went for the interview, and we got hired for the Fred Harvey company, and went and packed everything we had in her green Hornet, and we drove to the Grand Canyon because I had like $2,500, from the drug dealer, that we were gonna go have a new life. Mm-hmm. But wherever you go, there you are. Yeah. Because within 3 weeks at the Grand Canyon, I was FedExing, emailing crisscross, speed to the Grand Canyon and selling them, for extra money. It was like, nothing's really changed here. Mm-hmm. So, that's begins the cycle of, that sort of stuff. Moved with a boyfriend from the Grand Canyon to Steamboat Springs, Colorado, who I'd been on a little bit of a break with, and his girlfriend, a love from a long time ago, was coming to visit unannounced. And so I stepped back to give that time, and he and her were in a Jeep accident. And she was killed. And so we moved to Steamboat Springs together to kind of get him out of, that situation, or at least in the eagle eye of everyone being in that small town. Mm-hmm. Which this wasn't a new thing for me to have that kind of, trauma and experience, because my first love, Michael Pyan, in high school was killed in a car accident when I was into my junior year, and he was a senior. So, I'm really good at, bobbing and weaving in geographicals, and, once again, now I'm in Colorado, living with 5 roommates. I don't really even care about getting up on the mountain at 7:00 like everybody else. I'm that fair weather skier, that says, if it's sunny out and it's powdery, I might go, but I got 3 jobs and 5 roommates to live in this ski town. And after about 2 years breaking up with that boyfriend, I was working at a bar at the end of town, living in a trailer. First time I've ever lived in a mobile home. It's like, what the hell am I still even doing in this town? And I did a favor for a golf pro who was a regular customer, Roman Kogtal. Had nothing to do with any of the goings on in Steamboat, because my roommate actually facilitated the deal, and that was, I had done him a favor to get him a 1/4 ounce cocaine. So from Denver, through my roommate, to the golf pro, who was actually a DEA agent, I ended up getting swept up in the spring cleaning. And had the whole experience of, lying and telling other people that, I had snitched. When I'm going in there with sweats and boots with tassels and no bra and a sweatshirt going, fuck you, I ain't telling you nothing, because nothing I could even tell you would even matter. And I learned not to snitch in kindergarten. So kiss my ass. Mm-hmm. So I went to jail. My grandmother bailed me out. Becky, a very good friend of mine, helped relocate me to Colorado Springs for a year while I was dealing with all of that, because I had to come back up to Steamboat every few months for a court. And I ended up doing 90 days in jail. And my grandmother and my mother brought me back to Washington. And I now have a 3rd-class felony that's 30 years old that won't allow me to get into Canada. And the gift out of that was I found out I was pregnant with my daughter 8 weeks into my jail sentence. So very much like I was the hero for my dad to keep him out of the Vietnam War, I realized through some help of a friend that she was kind of my hero in giving me a chance to have something important enough to not, continue
to live for.
Yeah, to not continue down that path.
Mm-hmm.
And that realization of her saving me, like I saved my dad, was really only brought to my attention this last year when Nikkei was going through all that domestic violence stuff. But anyway, so now I'm a single mom. Lived with my parents for about 1.5 years while I went to beauty school. They always kind of told me I should go to beauty school, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to be a beauty school dropout. I came back from Colorado and tried to do telemarketing. Like by lunchtime, they were going, you need to go home. It's not your call. Okay, so I couldn't bartend, or I didn't want to bartend, I didn't want to be in that lifestyle anymore. So for the first time in the hair industry, something called Jean Juarez was on the scene in the Northwest. And that was very professional, very deep technical learning. And so I felt like it was, worth my effort and time. And I went to school for hair licensed in 93. And I'm just now at the end cap, possibly, of that career after having a salon for 18 years.
And not just a salon, Trish. You created something. If you're ever in the Tacoma area, check out Embellish, because it is breathtaking.
Thank you.
It's just breathtaking what you've done. And she does my hair too.
The third iteration of Embellish was definitely the most heartfelt. So pregnant with my daughter. I went to school pregnant, delivered her on Christmas right before I went to out on the floor. Thought she was going to be a boy, ended up being a girl, Nikkei. And because I didn't want a girl. Oh my God, I knew like all of the things, like,
She'd be just like you.
So much easier to have a boy, like throw some rocks, kick some dirt. Run. Oh, did I get mine? And she was my sidekick up until like 16. Like, I mean, just like she would. Thane, my husband that I had for my husband, when he first started being with us, one time she was like 2.5. She was gone for like 40 minutes, and she comes out into the living room, and he says, where'd you go? Where you been? I just felt I needed the timeout. And she like put herself in timeout because she was like not feeling it. Boy, did things change at 16. Anyway.
What an,
yeah.
For anybody, 16 is just.
16 teenagers and coming into an adult age sucks. Like, I don't blame her. I'm sure it had to be hard being a kid of two sober people. You got those natural things you go through at 14, 15, 16 when you want to hang out, smoke pot, party with your friends. And here you've got two parents who have done pretty much everything. Ain't nothing's getting by them, kind of deal. So that was a little rough. But Thane entered our lives at 2.5. Moved from my little small apartment to, our first house in the North End. Thane and I got sober at 5 years into our marriage. We were really, really, really active partiers. And the game that we played was that he would start early, and he was a blackout drinker, and I would start when I was mad that he was already in it. And so then I would go till 4 a.m. And I had much more longevity than him in the partying. So it was like this, dance all the time of kind of trying to outdo each other. And, we came together perfectly to act out some wounding. For sure. We are definitely soulmates in that manner. Insecurities, 2 Leos, power struggle, abandonment, heartache, all of those things.
Abandonment, rejection.
Yep. Absolutely.
We've talked about how the masculine generally feels rejection and the feminine feels abandonment. And in those sort of situations, because we both have masculine, feminine, so we're feeling rejected and abandoned.
Right. So as my feminine wounding, I want to attach, right? Like I want to just like lock on and, you know, hold and control. And in his, you know, in the masculine, you know, that perfectionism is, you know, what tries to do that. So it's like, we got all kinds of things swirling around,
Sure.
you know, with he and I. Total power struggle for years. He had an affair at about 5 years, right before our 5-year anniversary. It was pretty, I mean, it was devastating, really, when I go back. In fact, just this last year, moving here in Bisbee, in March, when I started the Radical Honesty program with Katrina, was the first time I'd really realized the depth of anger that I was like glossing over that. Because when we got sober, we really never healed.
Just kind of went right through.
We just were now sober, and now it's a different life, and that's not here anymore. And I chose away from that, and here we are, and we're going to just forge on something new. And there's something that happens when we don't address, well, I mean, you know, there's deep fallout when we don't address our pain and our
what's really going on.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to gloss over.
Right. The deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper it stuffs down. And then you don't even realize why you react to a certain person constantly, like all the time, like
explosive.
Yeah, constantly, just explosive, just nothing.
It's just always under the surface.
Right. Yeah. Powder keg. And you and I both don't really want to use like narcissistic, you know, terms like that, you know, too much, because it's just, you know, it's overused.
It's commercialized.
Right. But, you know, his MO was to control by being, by withholding. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like withholding his love, withholding money, withholding information, and withholding sometimes emotion. Cause like he was that master of like controlling the tone, right? And not getting mad or emotional, so that whenever I would, I lost immediately, right? As soon as I get emotional, as soon as I raise my voice, as soon as I yell, I'm the loser.
Now you're just crazy.
Yeah, I'm just done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So that, you know, went on for years. I mean, and I was terminally single, is what I used to call it. Like nobody lasted more than 90 days with me. I just couldn't even, like, and I would get heartbroken over, of course, the wrong kind of men who didn't want to come, you know, and settle, you know, the bad boys. But I didn't really care much, you know, about anybody else. And it was just sort of this like pattern of like, you know, you get to the 90 day mark and it's like, you need to go. And when I met Thane, I knew the night that I met him, like, whoa, this is going to be my husband. This is my lobster. Like, this is the man. And, you know, he was everything, you know, for 20 years until he wasn't, until something snapped inside of me and said, oh yeah, this game is done. You don't have to play this push and pull anymore. You just got your ticket to say, you might be right. You got your ticket to go, oh, you know what? I can say no to this. I don't have to be adhering this. So in 2014, I decided I wanted a divorce. And I think that a lot of that was possible because I had ran a political campaign the year before in 2013 and really found my authenticity. And when you do something like that and you have to continually stand in your power and decide whether or not you're going to compromise and whether or not you're going to acquiesce and make somebody happy, because I've been doing it in certain ways in my whole marriage, you know, and in, you know, growing up and everything over and over. So here I am in something I've chosen to do, and I, at every turn, have to decide, is that me? Is that me? Is that not me? Am I willing to, like, no, fuck no. And so somehow having that experience over and over kind of calibrates you in a way to just go, oh, I can't fake that anymore. I can't be over there anymore. Like that just doesn't feel good. So I think that had a lot to do with being in the place to finally say, this isn't working anymore. And it was apparent to me that as much for me as for him, the freedom, he deserved the freedom too from that marriage. There was no way that we were going to be the people.
You couldn't find the highest versions of yourself together.
Right. Thank you. That's exactly how I want to put it. There was no way we were going to find the highest versions of ourselves. And it was devastating, for a while. It was devastating for him. I don't think he understood exactly why. He wanted to make it about another man, all of these things. And I think for him, it was the despair of losing the life he thought he had. You know what I mean? I know that he loved me. I know he loved me as full of a capacity as he was able to in that human form. But somehow I had the fortitude to always attempt anyway, and I think I did a fairly good job of it, but to be kind and true, about my words and about my intentions and why I was leaving and what, happened. And we're pretty good friends now. It's a fairly good relationship.
No, I think you've been I would agree that it's been, I've had both of you here in my home.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, we came through when we were moving here, and
with his new girlfriend. So yeah. I've, really just, I think, a great example of what divorce can look like. Yeah.
Thank you. And so, I'm an only child. I had an only child. I only had one daughter. I didn't have Thane and I actually got pregnant when I was a year sober at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And I miscarried at about 13 weeks. So we had a plan to attempt to have, another child. And I'm sure that would have changed things, immensely.
Sure.
I can't imagine now, being having a, what was it, 2000, an 18-year-old. I'd have an 18-year-old.
You would have gone through the teenage years again.
Right. You had a plan. You had a path different for me. But, at 16, my daughter ran away. My parents were great enablers for her, and they didn't do her any favors. And we're getting the fallout of that now. You've experienced her. I did my final rescuing attempt with her this last year, using the money from my parents' house, who just passed, to try to create a new life for her. And it's, those lessons are always hard, but people's journeys are not ours.
That's a tough one.
That really is.
It's a tough one. The difference between loving and wanting to rescue, save, and control, because, you're her mom.
Yeah. And rescuing and saving always ends up feeling like control to the person on the other side. Yeah. That's what I'm really realizing.
Yeah.
That there is no caretaking that doesn't affect the other person in a way of smothering. And it's just, it's a dichotomy. It's so odd. Yeah. So luckily, or not luckily, but by the grace of God, and I'm blessed to have been, intentionally going down a spiritual path since about, my first past life clearing was, a couple years before the campaign. And after the divorce, you're forced to go inward, if you really want to heal. And, many, many days and nights in a fetal position in my own apartment by myself, meeting my shadow, allowing, being alone, because 6 months after I moved into my own apartment, or a few months after I asked for a divorce, like I said, my husband wanted to try to make it about another man because that was much easier. And so he shared some things that he should not have shared with my daughter, my parents, and a lot of other people. So, I mean, I was literally alone.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that scarlet letter A, you know, that like,
and just getting used to and even understanding what alone
me.
is. And you look in the mirror and like alone.
Yeah. Realizing just how often I had somebody at my hip, whether it was my daughter, whether it was my husband, even when we were fighting, like there's that codependency, right? Even when we're fighting, it's so much more comfortable to have you in the car with me going to the store or going to coffee, even when I want to punch you in the throat or you want to like, wow, like when you're truly alone, you go, oh my God, this was what it was. Wow. Like I had no idea that I filled my space and my time. Like my level,
especially when there's codependency, because the codependency story, it really is like literally ripping.
Yeah. You're there's a term, you're enmeshed. You're enmeshed with each other. Your wounds and your trauma, you're enmeshed with each other, and it becomes this tangled net in the ocean that's picking up all this other shit and debris, you know what I mean? And it's like,
and there's love too. There is love,
and that's what makes it so hard, because you mix up the enmeshment and the sickness and the codependency in the love, right? Mix up those deep feelings. And so grateful for when Thane got sober, he knew of this counselor named Vince Horan, and looking back, and he even said this, we should have gone to Vince and Sandra as soon as we got sober and worked through all of those healing wounds. It would have been a much different story. We would have ended up together at 95 on a beach, you know, like the couple going to bed together in the Titanic. You know, that's what I remember when we watched that movie, we were like, that's going to be us. And, you know,
I love it.
But we went through something called uncoupling, and it was probably the single most effective and heartfelt thing, because we got to be across from each other with somebody else holding space for us to be vulnerable enough to say the truth and to actually listen to each other in a way that we had never done. And although he was hoping that the uncoupling would actually, you know, save our marriage, I knew that the uncoupling was for us to healthfully, you know, be able to go apart.
I love you so much.
Yeah, hard, so hard. Yeah, I know. And you're just going through a divorce too. It's like, it's so deep, you know, the love and the pain, you know, that goes along with that. And God, the awareness of my level of codependency coming out of that marriage. Like,
and you know, I've never understood, like I watch people, there's a show, I don't have Netflix anymore, but there's a show that's like a divorce club ladies, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like these women that get together and like they have a big celebration and they get paint guns and they're at her wedding dress and they're like this huge fucking celebration. And I don't think it's anything like that.
That's just the bypassing. That's just the
you know, like yay, and I just think
oh,
it like I don't find it to be anything like that.
I'm glad that I have been brave enough to sit through the pain of this.
Yeah,
because
that's the only way you can, like, you either go in you either go in or you're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
So past life clearings, you know.
Do you feel like the spiritual, that part of it was really the beginning of your True North journey? Was
absolutely.
When you, yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
Political campaigns said, whoa, here's your litmus test. This is not your truth. This is not your truth. This is the only way you can stand in it, and walk through the pain and the level of integrity of a divorce like that, in all the things. I mean, I have an 18-year marriage. I was the scarlet letter A for however long. I learned to be alone. I let go of $1 million asset to have a new start with my salon, because the two girls that came in as partners, we moved from a building that he and I had owned together, took my own largest renter of my asset and moved it to another location and let it die, let it go back, so the shame and the stuff of that.
I know that was hard for you because you were there at the auction. I know how hard that was for you. Yeah.
It was like, happy birthday.
Yeah, I know how hard that was for you.
Yeah, and group therapy, constellation work, chakra meditation. I did that, I walked the path like most of us do, in searching for, what ways feel the most true, where do I really feel my spirit?
What is your true north?
Yeah, reconciling with God, the universe. What is my perception of God? Where do I, what fills my soul? Oh, I can have joy. Oh, I do have sexuality. Oh, wow, the sacral chakra being fucking hijacked, meeting you. Oh my gosh, just serendipities all along the way. And, being brave enough to hurt.
Yeah.
Yes. Being brave enough to just fucking hurt.
Yeah.
And sit in the hurt. And
on a deep, deep level of addressing abandonment, rejection, attachment trauma from not having that comfort right out of the womb.
Anyone, right?
Just you're in an incubator.
Jason was the mix of your mom, your dad, and that was Thane. Thane was the mix of my mom, my dad, perfect partners for each other to experience those wounds as deep as we needed to. Mm-hmm. And I can only wish for him in whatever way he can, to be on his journey to find his true north, because I want him to be the best human
that you can possibly be. Absolutely. And that's how you know that it was love.
Yeah.
That's how you know that it really is love. It didn't have I suppose as little girls, our imagination and the fairy tale and the forever part of it.
The formula, of what we think it's supposed to look like.
But when you can wish someone their best life, that's love.
Yeah.
That's love.
I'm blessed to feel that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So coming back to Sedona, coming there for SRT, finding your place. Wow. And standing in that pasture with you the first time, hearing your story and feeling the goosebumps on my skin when you said, I want to help heal sacral chakra trauma, and feeling that resonate to my core, and being able to come back and do culture crafting with you, which is my gift to the world of crafting, because I found out that my leadership, the way my brain works, my tenacity, my fire, all of that has shown up in ways that is too much, my perception, or some other people's hats landed on them, has at times felt too much, too hard, too strong, whatever. But I now know it was only because it wasn't in alignment.
Well, and you're human design, you're a manifester.
Right.
And then we've also been looking at gene keys. And when you start to look at this information and you connect dots of the roadmap of your life, to know yourself is the greatest gift we can give ourselves.
Right.
So here we are.
And I know in self be true.
Yeah. And so here we are in our 50s. And the work we do with True North is who we are as these Leos and these strong leadership type women it is our mission, our divine purpose to share this information with you, because we don't want you to waste another minute on a path that isn't
to not know you.
That is not your
Right.
true divine mission and purpose. And we all, I guarantee you, have a divine mission and a divine purpose.
But the difference for me now is that I know that my power, my fire, my my empathy, my fucking capacity to love,
Heart, yeah,
because of how much I've allowed my heart to be broken,
yeah,
is the way to bring my true north, so that, like you said, it's not about me going, I want you to get it, because getting it may look different than me getting it.
Sure.
Which is why we're on this, like,
guaranteed it's going to look different.
Right. The unicorn way and the YOU is because it's your true north.
That's right.
Unicorn inside of you. So my development of like culture crafting in business, when I realized what I was actually doing was I was bringing mindfulness and a compass to business, right? Then it changed. Then it translated into relationships are relationships are relationships. And it translated into alignment with ourselves and energy and chakra healing. And whoa, okay, now I know what my compass has been recalibrated to. Mm-hmm. So when this all happened for us, as far as the unicorn way and true north, I was like, oh, I'm supposed to have my fire. I'm supposed to be exuberant and vulnerable and messy
and super fun
and all of that, so that I can encourage people. My thing is possibilities. So if I can be of assistance in any way to help people break their own hearts, to expand it to the capacity of being able to love so much, so that we love ourselves in a way that all of a sudden the light shines and says, oh, I've been going east. No wonder I'm not following. Like, this is my true north. Mm-hmm. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm bringing to the planet, whatever that might be. Right. Like, that is the most passionate possibility that I can ever help anybody discover.
Well, we live on a time on the planet where, and we're going to have other discussions about this, so I won't go deep into this, but, activism is, it seems to be almost kind of the cool thing to do. And we could argue that people are just doing what they're being told to do and the mob rule sort of thing. But yeah. But I truly believe that the best way to be the best activist you can be is to just be the best version of yourself. And then that emulates out into the world. That's your activism, is just living by example of when you're on your true north mission and your true purpose, legions of help show up.
Right. Because then all of a sudden, then serendipitously, the people who will align with me are there. The heavens open up. The pathway is there. I'm in flow. My heart can resonate and vibrate out. And we can now go.
Here it is.
Here's where I hear people going, or the proverbial kumbaya, right? That people don't understand, that they think is just kind of la-la and woo-woo.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that life is utopia by any means. I mean, you kind of got to almost every day pull some weeds here and there. So it's not that life all of a sudden becomes utopia. But when your divine mission and divine purpose, you've become aware of them, you recognize the weeds that need to be pulled much more.
Bushwhacking the trail becomes much easier and much more fulfilling.
Yes.
And much less the trudging that we all feel like we're doing when we're going against our true north.
Yeah, and it's so easy. I mean, I don't think we really live. Well, I'm 50 now. We're in our 50s, so I can't necessarily speak for what it's like to be young, although I see it, I see it, I see what's going down. And I just think through indoctrination and the way things are, that there's not a lot of, support for even saying, like, what is it that you want to be? It's more like, go to college, get a job. And now college is, as far as I'm concerned, you can wipe your butt with a degree.
That's the biggest Ponzi scheme ever.
If you want to be, go get a trade. But of course, there are exceptions to that. But for the most part, it's a racket, and so if you're coming from your heart and your divine mission, just wait. Everything will show up. You'll have everything you need. And probably everything you want too.
Right. It's so easy for the world to look at it as idealistic or selfish to know they self first. Right? But it's that stupid saying of the oxygen mask.
Put yours on.
Put yours on first. And that, can't love anybody till you love yourself. Like all those, cliches.
They're cliches for a reason, though.
Right. If the only thing I am interested in putting effort into today is into how I feel. Because if I feel loved where I'm at, on my path, in my divine purpose, then I can be of service. Then I can resonate and vibrate off for you a place of comfort and sustainability so that you can find yours. And that's the only thing I want to put my effort into.
And then more comes in and you can share more. Like you're just this continual cup of giving and receiving. And I think so often, especially for those of us that experience codependency, and sure, in relationships, I think there's a certain amount of, it's just going to be natural. But when it gets into the toxic side of things, you don't even know how you feel or what a boundary is or who am I, or, it's so easy to fall into the people pleasing aspect. And then the resentment hits because you're giving with expectation that, I look at me pleasing everyone. Why aren't you honoring that? Why don't you fucking see me? Why do I still feel invisible, unheard, rejected, abandonment?
I've said for a time, and getting sober is this is like victim and martyr are the same thing for me. It's just a different pair of shoes.
Yeah.
And I truly am embodying and understanding now what it's been like to put on this shoe or to put on this shoe.
Or one of each day.
Right. I'm walking around with a fucking unmatching pair of shoes, but it's creating so much dissension within myself because how dare you not see all the things I do for you? Mm-hmm. And, the best way for me to have learned that is like with my daughter. Here I put, my time, my effort, and put myself in financial duress again to put my cape on and bring her and the grandkids here and serve this up on a platter, and then to feel like being the bad guy and I'm controlling and like and it's like, oh, wait a minute. I had the cape on. I'm trying to fabricate a new life for her. She hasn't even gone through a smidgen of any of the things I have. How can I even expect her to want to be brave enough to walk into this new life, even though she said she wanted it? Right? And who am I to take away whatever road
what she needs to go through? Right?
Because I know who I am today because of my experiences and how my pain is factored into that.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Humans are messy.
We are so messy.
And I think that's one of the reasons that I really hate the words narcissists and empaths. First off, anybody that, in my opinion, that wants to tell you 500 times a day how empathic they are, they're actually a narcissist. That's just an opinion I got going. That's a theory I got going. But these words have become anything that becomes like commercialized, I'm going to go the other direction. So while I think that for the most part, we carry these traits, and at any given time in a relationship that's out of balance, one can be more empathic and one has more of a narcissistic push pull, like, because I think that we're really, as humans, we're all empathic, and I think there's healthy narcissism.
Yeah.
And so things can get out of balance.
Layers and elements of it all. It's all in me.
Yeah. And we're just messy. And for those of us that are choosing to find ourselves and love ourselves and forgive ourselves and live in, that's really true north as well, is your story is your glory. Shame dies when it's told in a safe space. You know, we just did a kind of a trial couple retreats, and it was just amazing. It was amazing.
There's such magic that, well, and here's the hashtag truth magic, right?
Yeah.
There's so much magic when, and I can say when people in general come together, but there's an element of magic when women come together and
in
we're
small groups.
Yeah, and we're safe enough and brave enough to just share and be seen and see the other. And I remember, I think it was Priscilla, and she's like, I'm just so happy to know that I'm not the only person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like we all have all elements of it. We're all riding that wave of shame and blame and insecurity and inferiority and where do I fit in the world and how do I find my voice and
especially when we get a group of really strong women who don't necessarily we're not dressed in pink and we're not wearing dresses every day, and there's certainly no problem if you are. I don't resonate with that. I grew up on a ranch. I'm more of a jeans, t-shirt, tank top, cowgirl kind of energy, and that's not necessarily any better to be more like it was good to feel like I could let my masculine energy take a break and be feminine, so that I actually wanted to wear pink and put on a dress. So I didn't, but I do have dresses. And so my point is that we had strong women here who letting the guard down and being vulnerable so that we could find some balance and not feel like we had to
we let go of any like competition or any posturing, or protection that we had to have. We just got quiet, we got soft, we got trusting. And, and look what I got to get.
I know.
You got to be there with all of you ladies.
She looks like Annie back there, a little version of Annie.
She's the mini Annie. Hello, Annie.
Mini Annie. Her's sleeping right now. We're gonna go out for a ride here at some point, but
so I'm blessed to have a trail guide friend like you that we just keep bushwhacking those weeds because they come up, right? They come up every season.
Sure. But it has been from the moment that we met an unfolding of one serendipitous moment after another. And that's how we really came up with True North and Unicorn Way. And that's how it can be for everyone that's looking for their place in the world, their purpose in the world, their mission in the world, and that's why we do this work. That's why we're doing this. That's our mission and our purpose is to be vulnerable, be honest, be authentic in our stories. There's no shame in our stories. We're here to just lay it on the table and say, hey, this is us. No gurus, truth magic, True North. We've got some other hashtags we're coming up with, but your story is your glory. That's your true north. So that's what we do.
Right. And mine and your purpose is to bushwhack the trail and hold the space for that. and allow ourselves to unfold as we are allowing other people to unfold, and really just
Absolutely.
recalibrate that compass so that we can all know where our true north is.
And there's nothing you're going to tell Trish and I that is going to shock us, or that we would judge you for. You know, you hear our stories and you're like, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we look forward to having lots of brave, vulnerable women step onto the trail.
Mm-hmm. And Paladin was just so amazing. Like we take him out. We do this quiet walk and meditation with Paladin, who was born on 444, and he's our unicorn. And we start taking pictures because I just was letting him eat grass. He's not going anywhere. Well, it's not really grass; it's brown, but it's out there. And for him, it's like I get to be a horse, and I'm eating some grass. And we start taking pictures, and he just knows right when to come up. Lays his head like he just wants in the pictures. He's so much a part of it. And when Trish and I got our tank tops the day we got them from the printer, we were hanging them up on a wall outside, and sure enough, Paladin came in and walked right between tank tops and was like, "Yeah, I know,
I do." Yep.
Yeah, he's a pretty amazing guy. Well, Trish, thank you for sharing your story. And is there anything else that you wanted to maybe end it with?
No, just that I'm if anybody is questioning how amazing it can be when you just when you can surrender and let life happen, because I know that the situation with my daughter was a gift. It got me here to Bisbee. It allows me to be closer to you so that we can be really formulating this on a regular basis and provide retreats often. And I'm going to school next year at Sweeha in Tempe to do polarity and cranial unwinding. So, at 53, I'm giving myself the permission to step into cultivating my gifts and allowing my feminine to slow down or my masculine to slow down long enough so my feminine can receive. And it's
not over at 50.
No, it's no. I call it the 50-yard lifeline. Like it's just like that pivot point. You're going here, and I know it worked. I know it was happening for you when you turned 50.
Yeah.
Just because I know what was coming up to that, and I know where you're at now. So I know that 50 is.
It's been interesting. I will tell you, just there's some. The way that you look at life, you're questioning. I mean, there's so many things I love about it, and there's other things that, like, when I'm younger, I'm like, you can't imagine being 50, and it sounds so old, and then you get there, and you're like, okay, I don't even know that. And things have changed too, the way we look at aging and stuff. But I feel like I'm, well, certain things I'm better than ever.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad to be in my 50s with you.
Me too. Glad to have you here. Okay, well, we're going
to have you coming up pretty soon.
Yes, I'm going to stop this recording, and then we'll come back on and I'll share a little bit. And then we're going to also today do our week update with the cards that we pulled for the weekly energy. So we've got a few more minutes on air, which I love, because I love broadcasting. So this has been fun for me.
So unicornway.com website, Unicornway Facebook page, and YouTube.
Yep. And Unicorn Way 444 is our private group. And I'll have all these links. We also have our Patreon. Yeah. So we've got, we're doing it. There's a lot when you're doing social media. It's like, how do we consolidate this and utilize it the best? And so I'm still learning.
Our weekend after Thanksgiving is going to be lots of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I love you. And I'll see you back in a couple minutes.
All right.